What is up, Safuu community? Nathan B here with another video. As you can see on the screen now, we have 6 days, 5 hours until the node sacrifice. So I thought it'd be a perfect time to show you how to run through an AWS setup for your full or light node. So let's get to it. If you've watched any of my previous videos, you would know that I created this GitHub repository for all the code associated with easily deploying into Azure, Linux or Windows virtual machines. But I've been attempting to do the same with Linux in AWS, and I'm still, as it says here, I'm still testing this. I'm about 95% of the way through, where you should be able to come here and click on this button and go into your account, your AWS account, and it gets automatically deployed. But because we're 6 days away, I thought I'd just do in this video a manual deployment of an AWS EC2 instance. So we just have that to fall back on. So that's what I am planning to do in this video. So the first thing, what you want to do is you want to come over and in a browser, you want to type in aws.com or aws.amazon.com. And up in the right hand side here, you're going to click on create an AWS account. That's what you need to start with. All right, so this is the first section here. Is it's going to ask you for an email address. Now, personally, I created a separate email address that I'm going to be using just to separate my, node from any of my personal addresses, but that's up to you. So once you have that, enter that in, give it a name there. As it says there, you can change that later on. You're going to click on verify email address, and that's going to send a code to that email address, and then you're going to, in the next screen, you're going to have to verify that. But before we get to that, I just want to take your attention over to the left hand part of this web browser, and it talks about the free tier with AWS, a new AWS account. Right, so what that is AWS gives you 12 months free, okay, for new accounts. But that doesn't mean that your VPS or SafuuX node or virtual machine or instance, whatever you want to call it, it's the same thing, full or light node. It doesn't mean it's free, unfortunately. Now, I found this that talked about, hey, I'm a new account, I'm eligible for free usage tier, but why am I still being charged here? And it goes on to talk about that, like, some of the resources are considered free depending on how much usage, how many hours you use per month on that subscription. But the summary of it is that this line here where it says, if you're running an Amazon EC2 T2 small instance rather than the micro instance, then you're going to get charged, because under the free tier, your instance, again, your EC2 instance, your node, whatever you want to call it, has to be in the micro bucket, right? So it's a lot smaller size, a lot less power, you could say. Now, for us, if we go back to the requirements for our nodes, this doesn't essentially fall under the free category. Let's say that, having to run 8 gig of RAM, etc. Okay, so I just wanted to cover that. All right, so if we go back here and you've got to enter you verified your email address, you're going to come up with this code here. Okay, so once you put in that code, the next screen you're going to get is this one, which tells you that, hey, you've successfully verified the email address. The next option here is going to be this one, and this one's just going to be that normal name, address. You're going to have to put in a cell or a mobile number here for a later step. So enter that in step 2 and click on next, and you're going to come down to this step, which is step 3 of 5. And this is just the credit card information or debit card information. Once that's been entered, then click on next. We go to step 4, which is on the screen now, and that's just confirming that cell or mobile number. Pretty easy stuff. The last one here is the support plan. I personally just pick basic. I'm not interested in getting support from AWS here. I'll just pick the free one, and then you'll click on complete setup, and then you're done. Okay. Once you've done that, then what you're going to do is you're going to come and log on here. Come back to aws.amazon.com and you're going to sign in. So click on the sign in option. This is going to present you with this page. Root user is what I'm going to log on as. That is just essentially God to this account. You own it. You should have that level of privileged. So I'm going to enter my account details here, and I'm going to click on next. And then I'm also going to just enter the password. So one of the first things I think you want to do is, once you get to this console home, it may look a little bit different with some of this, but you want to go and pick a region that's closest to you. For me, I've selected this one. So go ahead and pick, a region that is closest to you, and then change that as a first step. So I'm just testing out here what it looks like when I change it to Frankfurt in Germany. All right, but I'm going to go back to my one. And that's just where the data center lives for AWS physically, in which country. Now, once you are logged on to the console with your account, I can confirm it up here in the top right-hand corner, but for myself, you want to then go up to the search bar here and type in EC2, okay? And you're going to see here this option here, which is EC2 virtual servers in the cloud. That's what we're going to do for our VPC, for our full all light node. So I'm going to select that option. It's going to bring you to this EC2 dashboard, and once this finishes refreshing here, I'm going to see that for the most part under resources here, your view is going to be quite empty. You may have a security group there. You're going to have 0 here for key pairs. There's going to be no instances, nor should there be any instances running if this is just a new account and you went through my previous steps. But what you want to do here is you want to click on this launch instance option here. Okay, I'm going to skip the tag section here, because for me, I'm really only going to be running, one full node or one light node, whatever I get. So I'm not interested in tagging resources to collect them together so I can search for cost optimization and management and things like that. I'm just going to have one VPC running. So I'm going to skip that. Now remember that we need a Linux OS. I'm going to pick this Amazon Linux option for now. If that changes, or if the SafuuX devs change their support on that option, then we'll adhere to what they say, and maybe we'll pick another flavor of Linux. But for now, we don't know that information, because if I go back to the requirement, all I see here is Linux. It doesn't specify what version of Linux. So at this point, I'm going to take a guess and say any version of Linux is okay. Next, what you're going to want to do is change the architecture of this from 64-bit to ARM, because the ARM processor is what we need to match these requirements for the instance, the C2 instance that we need for our VPS. Okay, so change that there. You see that's gone to now 64-bit ARM. And down here, you're gonna click on this drop down, and I'm gonna type in a1.x large. Okay, and I'm gonna select that instance type here. Let me zoom in here just to confirm. So you've got your ARM and you've got your A1 extra large. Now, if you see here, I have 4 V virtual CPUs and I have 8 gig of memory. Okay. So if I go back to the requirements, which what we know today is 8 gig of RAM, and down here it says 4 core or 4 virtual CPUs. Okay, so I'm just going with that because as you guys know, that's what we need as per the white paper. The next option here is key pair. The key pair is a security cryptographic set of values or characters that is going to allow you to use a tool to log on to your Linux instance. So it's going to be a really important file or key, and we need to keep that secure and safe, and we need to also keep it somewhere where we're not going to lose it as well, because it's tied to the instance. It's very, very difficult to get that back if you lose that file, but more on that later. So let's go ahead and just create one now. I'm going to call this my SafuuX node KP, if it allows me to do that. I'm going to select all this as default, and but except for this one, I'm going to change it to a .ppk file, because for me, I'm going to be using Putty as my tool to connect to the instance. All right, I'm going to click on create key pair. So you may notice up here in the top right, I have the file. This is the file that I spoke about. When you download it, you need to go to this folder and you want to get that ppk file and you want to keep it for later on, for then to connect to this instance. Okay, so everything else here, I believe I'm just going to leave as default. You may want to look into this, create a different security group, but default is going to be fine because I want to allow SSH traffic. That's through that Putty tool to connect to install. All right, now here's another option here, right? Configure storage. Well, remember, we need a 500 gigabyte SSD volume attached to our VPS, our VM, our full or light node. So that's where we need to do that. So I'm going to create a 500 general purpose SSD, which is what is fine for us. Whoops. Okay, and I'm going to click on, just leave that like that. Okay, I'm going to click on advanced details, but most of this stuff you can have a look through. Most of it I am okay with, and most of this stuff I can probably change later on anyway. Okay, so there's a summary to the right here, and I have one instance. That's all I want, unless I was lucky enough to get, one full and, one light node, which I would separate. But for now, I'm just going to create my one instance, and it's running that Linux flavor, the ARM. It's our A1 extra large. We have a security group, and we have our 500 gig volume. It talks about that free tier here as well. So let's click on launch instance. Okay, so it looks like it's in the process of launching it, and it's successful for one piece of it. So I'm going to click on this view all instances. All right, it's done. It didn't take long at all, probably only about 5 minutes, and you can see that I am up and running. I don't have a name, so I'm going to change that to my SafuuX. I'll type in full node. It could be light node. That's just the name that you give it. It doesn't affect it. It doesn't matter. And it's okay. So now I can see that it has my A1.extra large, which is good. If I come down here, the first thing I want to just check is that the storage. Okay, and I can also see that it's attached, and it's a 500 gig volume as well. So that is good. If I go back here, and I also see that it is Linux, Amazon Linux, so everything is looking good. There's probably some other configuration options that you can add to here, but I see the number of virtual CPUs is 4, and I'm just looking for my 8 gig of physical memory. It's probably in here somewhere, but that is okay if I missed that. Okay, doesn't say. Right, so the next thing I want to do is just try and connect to this. So let's go ahead and do that. So I've installed or downloaded and installed this utility called Putty, and it allows me to connect to my instance. Right, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to, the file that I downloaded, that PPK file before, I'm going to insert that in this tool that allows us to authenticate against our instance. Now, if I go down under connections and to SSH, I'm going to select this auth option. So I'm going to zoom in here, and you're going to select connections, SSH, and then auth. And this is, well, the browse option is what we want to click next. So click on that browse, and then find where your PPK file from that key pair lives, and then we want to click on open to that. It's going to use that PPK file to connect to your instance, and without that file, you cannot connect, at least with this method through SSH. The next is I'm going to put in my IP address, my public IP here, and I'm going to click on open. Okay, then I'm prompted with a login. So the first thing I'm going to do is just make this a little bit larger. Change settings here so we can all see it. Change it to 20 font and apply that. Okay, the next thing, what I just want to do here is I just want to get the account, so it's EC2-user. Yeah, the Amazon Linux version has this default user that they use. So I've already authed with that PPK, so that's the security aspect of it. No one else should have that PPK file, so only you're allowed to use that key to auth to your instance. So once you click on enter, you can see that we are literally in on our Amazon Linux. So that's the entire video. I showed you how to deploy manually, you know, the AWS instance that should be able to run your full node and light node with the configuration we know now, or the configuration needed, the requirements, I should say, actually, and also I showed you how to connect. So yeah, until next time, I'll make another video, hopefully towards the end of the week, on a automated version of what you see here. But yeah, until then, catch you in the next video. Bye.